Now, the UN High Commission for Refugees has also called on Britain to be part of a programme to help resettle a small number of the most vulnerable Syrian refugees. 18 countries are part of that programme. Britain is not so far among them. Doesn't the Prime Minister agree that we should be?
I think we are fulfilling our moral obligations to the people of Syria. We are the second largest bilateral aid donor. The money that British taxpayers are providing is providing food and shelter and water and medicine for literally hundreds of thousands of people. We're also fulfilling all our obligations in terms of asylum seekers, and we've taken over 1,000 asylum seekers from Syria in recent months. We're also making sure that we can, where we can help very vulnerable children who are ill, including a child in a British hospital today, we take action there as well. I don't believe that you can solve a refugee crisis of this scale when you've got almost half of the 9 million population of Syria either displaced or at risk of displacement, with a quota system where countries are taking a few hundred refugees. But where I do agree with him is that if there are very difficult cases of people who don't belong in refugee camps, who've been either disabled by these dreadful attacks or in very difficult circumstances, I'm happy for us to look at that argument. Britain always plays the right role in these desperate humanitarian crises.
We're all proud of Britain's tradition in terms of taking refugees. Why doesn't he look again and say that Britain will actually participate in this programme and take just a few hundred refugees and indeed set an example?
Some countries are using this quota system as a way of saying, therefore I fulfilled my obligations. Now, when you've got, as I say, almost half of a 9 million population at risk of displacement, the fact that, you know, the Finns or the French or the Swedes are going to take a few hundred people, that is not fulfilling your obligations. Whereas the massive amount of aid that Britain is putting forward, the second largest in the world, I think is playing the most important role. But as I've said to him, I think there are individual cases where we should be looking, and I'm happy to look at those arguments and those issues, but let's not pretend that a small quota system can solve the problem of Syrian refugees.
Now, given the reasonable tone of the Prime Minister, will he now open discussions with the United Nations about Britain making its contribution to this programme? I think colleagues from all sides of this House want this to happen. Will he now say he'll do so?
I've made very clear we're prepared to listen to the arguments about how we can help the most vulnerable people in those refugee camps. But just to correct him, some of the countries that are participating include in their quotas both asylum numbers and refugee numbers, which I think is not the argument we should be making. Let me be absolutely clear. Britain is leading the world in terms of humanitarian aid in Syria. We should be proud of that. We're fulfilling our obligations on asylum claims, and we should be proud that we do give home to those who flee torture and persecution. And where there are extreme hardship cases, I think we should look at those again. That is the approach that we should take. I think there should be all party support for it, and I think Britain can be proud of the role that we're playing.